Today I want to talk a little bit more about the Sightline rule that I've got. I had my friend Steve first work out the exact angles for it and make it really accurate on the computer. And so now you can go to my blog and get the PDF and print one out yourself. And I'll show later how I laid this out onto the back of a key belt sign from the hardware store so that I'd have a more permanent tool that I could work with. But I'd like to show you a little bit about how it actually works, and then maybe explain a little bit about why it works so that you might be more apt to understand it, and then maybe even use it in your own work. I'll show now how I would do the layout to create the rake and splay that I might desire for some components of a chair. So if I have 2 points on a pattern, it doesn't really matter where I put them for right now. You can just imagine that that might be 2 legs on a pattern. First thing I need to do is create a baseline that connects the 2 points. I'll just draw a baseline across here. Then I need to decide what my rake and my splay are going to be. So if I say that my rake is going to be, let's say, 12 degrees, and my splay is going to be 8 degrees, it's very simple to find out what that sight line is going to need to be, because all I have to do is put the sight line rule along the baseline and move it along until 8 degrees contacts the mortise location. Then, if I go up the rake side here for 12 degrees, which is going to be my rake, and put my marker right there, make a mark, and connect that back down to my original mortise location, this is going to give me my actual sight line. So there it is. That is the plane in which I will be needing to drill to achieve my 12-degree rake and my 8-degree splay. I just don't know what angle I'm going to be drilling. So to achieve that and discover what that's going to be, I just put my sightline rule back up on here and I measure, and it goes to 14.5 degrees. So at 14.5 degrees I will drill, and that will give me my rake of 12 and my splay of 8. It's that simple. And of course, if this was a pattern, I would have a center line over here, and I'd probably just extend this line down to the center line, and that would then allow me to extend it back up over to the other one without having to lay out both of them independently. I just go off what that center line gives me. The geometry involved in calculating rake and splay can be a little confusing, so at the request of Steve First, who helped me with the computer work, I created a three-dimensional model here of what's actually happening with rake and splay, as well as another drawing I'd like to show you that I think might help you understand not only a little bit more about rake and splay, but why it is that the sightline rule is such an effective way to go about getting your angles when you go to drill things. Here's the first drawing I'd like to show you, and it really has to do with relating how angles, when drawn off of a single line here in 5-degree increments, and you can see that they are each the same at 5 degrees, how when they project down onto a flat here, they actually go out more and more and more, so they incrementally increase. And that's the basis for what the sightline scale does. It tracks that progression proportionally along. Okay, so it doesn't actually even matter what scale it is, it's just a proportional difference between the first 5, the second 5, and the third 5, and that's a constant. You're never going to have that change on you. So here's the model that shows how the splay and the rake are going to play out as distances, not just angles. Obviously they play out as angles, and you can see that as I've delineated all the different increments that they each go out. You know, one going a few more degrees than the other one. But what that really helps us see is that we're talking about a distance out that that leg is going to stick to one way, and then how much it's going to stick out the other way. And if you create that as a limit, so that you have a limit to the front and a limit to the side, and project that as a line, it's going to give you a point in space that if you were to draw straight back to where it all begins, just below where the mortise is, you're going to end up with your sight line. And you can see that because if I take something like this, which is basically the result of it all, and I put it right along there, that is exactly what's happening here when you're using your rake and your splay to create a sight line. Then, of course, you've got the angle that you need to find that you're going to drill. Well, based on what I showed here, which is each of these are 5-degree increments, you could say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 degrees. Well, this would be, if you did it as a distance from the base here, quite easy to discover, because it would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 degrees, or something to that effect. So you can start to see how the distance that these things kick out can be translated, just like I showed before, back up into the angles that you're going to be using. Now I'd like to show you how I do the layout to create, and the cut and paste to actually create the sightline rule. Basically, in the PDF it's printed out either on legal form or it's on this regular standard sheet. And I like to put cardstock for the regular standard sheet through my printer, and that helps it out come up a little bit firmer, a little bit easier to handle. So once I've done that, I actually print it out twice, and in doing so I'm able to cut one across this angle, and then the other sheet I cut across the other angle like this. And what that does is it gives me the ability to find areas beyond where the actual printed part is that I'm going to save, and that's where I can tape it up. And basically that's all I need to be able to do is tape it up, and then take a little spray adhesive, this time beware of dog is my sign, and I'm just going to spray adhesive that right onto here, and then I'll go in with the scissors. This is pretty thin stock actually. I'll go in with the scissors and cut it out from there. And then if you want to protect it further, you could take some cellophane tape and place it over it just like I did. And that's how you're going to end up with a nice protected and pretty long lasting tool. Well, I hope this was helpful, and at the very least didn't confuse you any further about rake and splay and how the geometry of all that works. Hopefully you'll go to the blog and print out the PDF that's on there. There's both the legal size and the standard copy where you can just do a little cut and paste to make it work out just fine. And hopefully this will become a tool that goes into your toolbox and becomes a handy way to do your layout.